All right. So it's been 2 minutes. Sorry, had to try to get ready a little bit. Switch over to landscape. I'm sure nobody's going to join this live, so if you guys have questions afterwards, if you happen to see this, then go ahead and please leave a comment, and I'll be glad to get back to you. With whatever I know. I'm definitely not a knife expert. I don't know all the little technical terms or the lingo, but you know, I like knives, I like guns, I like motorcycles, flashlights, all that kind of good stuff. So I got myself a new knife to upgrade from the other one, and I thought it was pretty sweet that I have three knives that are super similar now, and figured it'd be fun to make a little discussion about it and just give my little 2 cents and what I think about it and why and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm just gonna kind of wing this and see what happens with it. So I'm going to take this knife off of the display because it is a different knife. It's just very similar. These two are the main discussion. The small one is what I was carrying as far as my EDC knife, I everyday carry. And the larger one is the same knife but a newer generation. So these are Benchmade, and the new one is the AFO 2. And the other one is supposed to be the AFO 1. So these are both aluminum. Benchmade is the brand. These are both lockable, auto open. As you can see, very similar. Honestly, just the new one is a little bit of a beefier model. I went with it just for the heck of it. I liked it being a little bit beefy um, as far as the idea. Generally, like I said, I'm using these every day and just have them in my pocket just for whatever tool I might need. So the slim and lightweight and petiteness of the one is very desirable for me over the two. This one's pushing the limit. I've had it for a few days now and haven't had any issues with it, but this any bigger than this is going to be too big for as far as I'm concerned to have just in my pocket all the time and use it, maybe once or twice a day to do something with. But just really to because I've really enjoyed this one so much and I'm looking forward to this one, and just to speak of the quality of the knife and the durability and what I got out of it and what I noticed between the two, the new and the old. I figured I owe it to them almost to say something about it because very excellent knife as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, I'm no professional. I don't test this stuff. I don't have 1,000 knives that I've passed through my hands that I know all this cool stuff and ins and outs. But uh, for what I do, and I'm kind of hard on them, this has been the best knife that I've ever had for sure. So I'm hoping this one meets all those expectations and a little bit more. So just a quick deal on the old one. It's auto open, so you have the little button there and then a lock here. You can lock it, slide it, and it just stops you from being able to press the button basically. Pop that open. This one is a little bit of a tanto blade with the serration. It's mostly only serrated on the one side, which I don't care too much for, but even though these serrations are almost completely gone, I've beat on them so much, it still works really well. And trust me, I do not sharpen my knives hardly ever. I don't take care of them. I don't do things to baby them. I'll cut metal with it. I'll run it through the sand. I'll cut stuff, cardboard, tape, all that stuff that you're not supposed to cut. And this blade is, by no means very sharp, but it still cuts those kind of light duty things that I use it for on a large basis. And it's strong enough that when I need to cut something a little more heavy duty, it has enough power behind it that it'll still cut even though it's not that sharp. And this blade is miraculously in good condition. I think I've conditioned it once, like with just a bench grinder or something, just to get some of the nicks out of it. But I can't believe how much it's held up. I mean, I'm talking, wire, small aluminum, like I said, cardboard, and really the main thing I use my knives for, to be honest, is a tool. I use these to pry and to open and to break other things. So I don't use these, like I said, strictly as a cutting tool. I use it just as a general tool. All these marks right here are from using it as a hammer, not just one time, but many times. I mean, you can see it that the finish is almost completely worn off of the whole front side of the blade just from use. This thing is years old, definitely over 5 years of everyday use for sure. Uh, Probably a lot longer than that, probably like somewhere around 8 or more. Um, I want to say probably 8 to 10 at least, with maybe a 1 or 2 year layoff in between. I lost this knife for a while and then found it again. So actual everyday use, like 6 to 8 easily, if not more. And I mean, all the finish is worn off of everything, all of the edges. But as far as just function, as far as the blade being sloppy, it has a little bit of slop in it, but I'm telling you, this is no maintenance, and this is abuse, and this is a long time of just being in the pocket and whipping it out and using it when I want. This blade still closes and opens perfectly. I don't clean it, I don't lube it, I don't tighten it, I don't do anything to it. It just works. And how much more can you ask for from that? And I know I could tighten this up a little bit and it'd get rid of that tiny little bit of slop that it has, but it pretty much got to this point of sloppiness and then never got worse. So I just left it. The pocket clip is perfect. It is plenty tight enough that it's definitely not going to fall out, but it goes in and out of the pocket smoothly. That would be one complaint I have about this new one. This pocket clip is super tight. Like, it almost pulls your pants off trying to get it out of your pocket. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that's basically it. So the new one, as you can tell, no blade damage. This one will definitely shave the hair off of your arm. Uh, the finish, everything is great on this one. Almost an identical design, just beefed up. So all the talk I did about this one can be the same said about this, but I guess pretty much we'll just do a comparison so that you can know basically what they did to update the model. This one just has a standard blade on it. I didn't get the Tanto blade, which I just got. This knife was what they had. I wasn't really looking specifically to get anything special. Doesn't really matter to me. As long as it's durable, then I'm happy. Very similar design with the handle, just a little bit beefier, but this one has plenty of upgrades that I like. The old one is just a plain standard, like, feels like regular aluminum. You can't even feel the black coating on it. It just feels like aluminum. The new one has a texture to it, like a fish scale, very fine, very fine sandpaper texture to it. So it has, just that touch of grippiness without the cuts, just plain old, the texture of the actual knife itself just has a little bit of a grippiness to it. And that was something that I really thought that I would enjoy. And then all of the areas where you grab the knife and have a grip on it are much improved and beefier on the new one. So you can see how much more hooked this front indent is on the new one. And then on the old one, it's just a smooth finish. And on the new one, they have the little grips cut into it. And then Same on the back side. It's a much deeper cut. And then once again, the smooth finish versus that textured finish on this one. And then with the back on the top, same deal, smooth finish, textured finish. And this one is actually textured because it has this like glass breaker slash hammer piece built into it. So you have the handle, and then you have this separate piece of steel bolted in between, sandwiched in between the handle. Or on this one, the handle just rounds off and ends out nicely. And then last but not least, you come forward. This one, you have a little tiny bit of a cutout on the actual blade itself, but nothing on the handle at all. Where on the new one, not only does it have a cutout where it gives that nice ridge to it, it also has the grip as well, but nothing on the blade. You go with the handle instead of the blade. So as far as control and power, the new knife is definitely going to be far superior to the old one. The old one is just probably going to be a lot more comfortable to have in your pocket and you know, carry around. It weighs a decent amount less, but surprisingly not as much as you would think with the size difference. Probably weighs about the old one probably weighs 2 3/4 as much as the new one, even though it's a, a reasonably large amount smaller. The new one has 4 attachment points for the clip, so you can put it on either side, top or bottom, left or right. And the old one just has the one. You're stuck with what they give you, which the one that they give you is the one that you want. So unless you're going to put this somewhere weird, that's probably going to work out great for you on the old one. But you have the option to put the new one somewhere weird if you want. And they put the clip in the wrong place, in my opinion, because if you see how high the knife sticks out above where the clip is attached, all that is sticking out of your pocket. Or if you flip it around, you just have a pretty much the same amount, a little bit sticking out, nothing too crazy. So I'm gonna flip this one around because it'll go in your pocket like this with the clip facing down. So your pocket is here, clipped out on your pocket. That way when you grab it out, you're grabbing it like this. So you'd grab it, pull it out, and then it's ready to go. As far as mechanism goes, this new one is super springy and super strong. It pops out extremely crisp. This old one may be used to, but like I said, I don't clean it or lube it or do anything to it. It still pops out plenty. Had no complaints with that at all, but this new one's just kind of ridiculous and over the top. The old one, after all these years, it has a little bit of play in it. Almost the tip of the blade is like flush with the handle. You just can almost catch it with the skin of your finger, but not quite. So I would like it to be down like that when it's closed, but you can see how much it rests when it's closed. The new one has a tiny little bit, but probably less than half of what the old one has, and it's probably 3 to 4 millimeters dug down into the handle, so it's nowhere near the tip catching on anything while it's closed. And that's pretty much it. The blade length is the same. Blade bulkiness is obviously a lot larger on the new one, but it's also a different design. Blade thickness, I'm going to give that to the new one just because it stays that same thickness and slenders down. But the cool thing is on the old one, it has that little fat spot on the end, so I feel like that probably gives it a decent amount of strength for prying on things, which I do a lot. So it's really hard to say how this is going to play out in real world because this one is a little bit thicker on the tip, but this one is a little bit beefier as far as the side profile goes. So really just a few added features like the glass breaker, the clip position and the texture, all of the grip areas. Other than that, very similar, very much the same type of mechanism. They work the same. They have the actual same clip on them. It's just you can move it around on the new one. So, same type of bolt pattern. This one has a 3-bolt. This one is 4, but that's because they added this hammer piece at the end. So they got to have something to hold that in place. And then just as a quick last comparison to the other knife that I had, which is even more bulky than this one, which is why it's a backup and not a main, because this one's fairly heavy and even a little bit thicker than this AFO 2. But this one is by Gerber. I think they call this the 06 Auto. I think that's meant to be called the OT6, but people say 06, so whatever. It's also supposed to be auto, but it's not like full auto. You have to give it like the slightest bit of a flick. Not a hard, just a tiny little flick of the wrist. Flick of the wrist, and then it pops open. This one, probably if it was cleaned and lubed up, it would probably fully open by itself, but like I said, you just have to give it like a little bit of a toss. Once you use this knife, I'm messing it up on purpose to try and, but once you use this knife, this would definitely open just fine. But this Benchmade just opens ridiculous. And like I said, that other one, no excuse to this one, because this one hasn't been used nearly as much as that AFO 1, and that AFO 1 opens every time, so no excuse really. This one, once again, Tanto, serrated. You can see a little bit probably the damage to the blade. It has a lot of nicks in it, and you see those rusty areas. And you can see even the finish hasn't even been worn off the knife. It hasn't been used hardly at all. The tip is a little bit broken off of it. And I think it's S30V steel on the blade, which is supposed to be really good, but I don't know. I don't think this knife is as good. For how beefy this blade is, it's not as strong as that Benchmade. And then this one, once again, it's coated black, but it just feels like regular aluminum. It doesn't have any texture to it. But as compared to this one, like the button is beefier, the lock is beefier. It has the little red dot on it to know if you're on or off safe. It has a very solid engagement lock, where this one just slides back and forth. The button, the mechanism in here, it's all open. It has the ridges on the back. It has the cutouts. It has the glass breaker. It's very heavy, very strong, very beefy. In my opinion, too much for me to carry around and be comfortable. You can't, I think you can swap the clip from one side to the other because it has the holes that go all the way through, but it's 2 different bolts on one side or the other, so it wouldn't surprise me if you'd have to completely swap everything over, but it looks like it's probably switchable. But once again, it's already in the correct position of how it needs to be, so no really issue there. So this one, very good if you're, that's why I use this as a backup. This is a little bit too beefy for me, so this would be more like if I was hiking or something, I could put this in a backpack, and have a spare in case I somehow lost my knife or broke it or whichever. A lot of times if I'm doing something with somebody, then I'll give them this one so that we both have one. If we're, if me and a friend are both camping or hiking or whatever, then I'll give them this one to borrow. That way we both have a very similar knife that I can pretty much rely on and know what it's gonna do, and they both function and feel very similar. So it's just that kind of silly stuff. But I think this Gerber 06 is very stout, very awesome. It looks super cool. It feels really good, but like I said, it's just a bit overboard for everyday use. Because even though this knife is fairly large, it doesn't weigh anywhere near what this Gerber weighs. And like I said, the Gerber is just that little bit longer, a little bit thicker. it's just this is my threshold. This is it. Any more than this and I'm out. So that's why the Gerber is on backup. Just real quick, if you guys want to see more on it, I know this video is already getting super long. I have other ones like these. Buck knives are a cheap, really cool tactical knife, kind of survival camping knife type of deal. It's got the seatbelt cutter, the glass breaker. It has a lock. It's not an auto open, but the top of these ridges right here are part of the blade. So once you pull this lock down, it's spring loaded, so you have to hold it. Pull it down and then roll your finger across it and it can flick open. But these are very inexpensive, like $15-20 versus all these other three are, you know, like $250, which I would hope so, because this sucker has lasted 10 years and I would still sell it for like $60 as is. It's ridiculous. So yeah, as far as like a cheap knife that I found that is super worth the money, these little buck knives, that you can get them at like Bass Pro Shop and whatnot. I don't think Walmart and stuff has them, but like a step above like Walmart and Target, you know, Bass Pro Shop and that type of thing, you can get these. Really cool. And then on top of just a regular pocket knife, I also everyday carry a multi-tool. This Gerber is one that I really like. I have a few of these. These are what I have on the motorcycles. But as far as what I actually carry with me is this SOG. I just really like the pliers on it mostly. I have the multi-tools just for the pliers 90% of the time, but the pliers on this sucker are very pointy and they close 100%. There's no gap there at all. So when you want to bite down on something, it'll do it. And it has this little gear drive to really give you some power. Obviously the cutters, crimpers, and all the other accessories. But like I said, I can run over some other tools like that, stuff that I carry into a little bit more detail. And then also the flashlights and things like that I use as well. But all in all, like I said, I've had this Benchmade AFO 2 for a few days now, and so far I'm really digging it. I just need to get this clip switched over, and I think y'all be happy for many more years to come. You know, like I said, a little bit pricey. You can probably get them for a lot less, but their retail on them is like $250. So, but as I told you with the AFO 1, you're very likely to get all your money plus some out of that knife. So it just depends on if you're the type who likes to buy cheaper stuff more often or better quality stuff less often. It all works out the same. But that's my ramble. Please leave me a comment if you have any questions, and subscription would be awesome. Like I said, just a quick off the bike video. I just thought it would be cool to discuss some knives with you guys. So if you're into that, like I said, leave me a comment, and then subscribe for more of that. Mostly subscribe for motorcycle stuff, but I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Y'all have a good one and take it easy. Later.